Now David moved down to the wilderness of Maon. There was a wealthy man from Maon who owned property near the village of Carmel. He owned 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and it was sheep shearing time. This man's name was Nabal, which means fool. His wife, Abigail, was a sensible and beautiful woman, but Nabal, a descendant of Caleb, was mean and dishonest in all his dealings. Now, when David heard that Nabal was shearing his sheep, he sent 10 of his young messengers to Carmel. He told them to deliver this message. Peace and prosperity to you, your family, and all that you own. I have heard that you're shearing your sheep and goats. Well, while your shepherds stayed among us near Carmel, we never harmed them, and nothing was ever stolen from them. Ask your own servants, they'll tell you it's true. So would you please be kind to us, since we have come to you at a time of celebration? Please give to us any provisions you might have at hand. Well, David's messengers delivered the message and waited for Nabal's reply. When Nabal sneered. Who is this fellow? David. Huh? Who does this son of Jesse think he is? There are many servants these days who run away from their masters. Should I give my bread and water and the meat I've slaughtered for my shearers to this band of outlaws who comes from who knows where? And David's young men returned and told him what Nabal had said. Well, David, he replied, "Get your swords," as he strapped on his own. 400 men started off with him, and 200 remained behind to guard the equipment. And meanwhile, one of Nabal's servants went to Abigail and said to her, David, he sent young men from the wilderness to speak to our master, and he insulted them. But David's men were very good to us, and we never suffered any harm from them. Nothing we owned was lost or stolen the entire time they were with us. In fact, they were like a wall of protection to us and the sheep. You better think quick, for there's going to be trouble for our master and his whole family. He's so ill-tempered, no one can even speak to him. Well, Abigail lost no time. She quickly gathered together 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, and 5 dressed sheep, nearly a bushel of roasted grain, 100 fig cakes, and 200 raisin cakes. She packed them on donkeys and said to her servants, "Go on ahead, I'll follow you shortly." But she didn't tell her husband what she was doing. So, as Abigail rode down into a mountain ravine, she saw David and his men coming toward her. Now, David had just been saying, "A lot of good it did to help this fellow. We protected his flocks in the wilderness, and nothing he owned was lost or stolen. But he has repaid me evil for good. May God deal with me severely if even one man of his household is left alive tomorrow morning." Well, when Abigail drew near, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed low to the ground. She fell at David's feet and said to him, "I accept all blame in this matter, my lord. Please, listen to what I have to say. I know Nabal is a wicked and ill-tempered man. Please don't pay any attention to him. He's a fool, just as his name suggests. But I never even saw the messengers you sent. Now, my lord, as the Lord lives and you yourself live, since the Lord has kept you from murdering and taking vengeance into your own hands, let all your enemies be as cursed as Nabal is. And please accept these gifts I have brought for you and your young men. Forgive me if I have offended in any way. The Lord will surely grant you a lasting dynasty, for look at you. You're fighting the Lord's battles. And you haven't done wrong throughout your entire life. Even when you are chased by those who seek your life, you're safe in the care of the Lord your God, secure in God's treasure pouch. But the lives of your enemies, they'll disappear like stones shot from a sling. And when the Lord has done all the Lord has promised and made you leader of Israel, don't let this be a blemish on your record. Then you won't have to carry on your conscience the staggering burden of needless bloodshed and vengeance. And when God has done these great things for you, please remember me. David replied, Praise the Lord, the God of Israel, who has sent you to meet me today. Thank God for your good sense. Bless you for keeping me from murdering the man and carrying out vengeance with my own hands. For I swear to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, who has kept me from harming you, that if you hadn't hurried out to meet me, not one of Nabal's men would be alive tomorrow morning. Then David accepted her gifts and said to her, Return home in peace. We won't kill your husband. So Abigail arrived home and found that Nabal was throwing a huge party and was celebrating like a king. He was very drunk, so she didn't tell him anything about her meeting with David until the next morning. The next morning, when he was sober, she told him what had happened. And as a result, Nabal had a stroke and lay in his bed, paralyzed. About 10 days later, the Lord struck him, and he died. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Praise the Lord, the God of Israel, who has paid Nabal back and kept me from doing it myself. Nabal has received the punishment for his sin. And David wasted no time in sending messengers to Carmel to ask Abigail to become his wife. When the messengers arrived at Carmel, they said, David would like to know if you will become his wife. And Abigail bowed low to the ground and replied, Okay. I'm even willing to become a slave to David's servants. Quickly getting ready, she took 5 of her servant girls as attendants, mounted her donkey, and went with David's messengers. And so she became his wife.